Alright, it's day number 2. Little video update. 6:20 a.m. About to head over to the gym and yeah, get my day started.
You're watching 24-Hour Fitness.
Alright, so if you guys want to make the weight float up, you guys should definitely be sumo deadlifting. And the benefits of sumo deadlifting over a conventional deadlift is that you're going to have a greater potential for your lift. And the reasoning being is because you're going to have better leverage. Alright, and so it doesn't matter what type of body style you have. I know some people like to say that it depends on your genetics, if you have longer legs or longer arms. And that is really only going to be in like extreme cases of some type of mechanical advantage. So like a good example would be someone with extreme scoliosis. They're going to have really long arms, and there's actually a few deadlifters who have beaten world records because they have scoliosis. So it gives them a mechanical advantage. But still, in that case, it would still be better to sumo deadlift because the range of motion is decreased and you're engaging muscles that also have greater strength potential. So you should be sumo deadlifting. There's no question about it. And to give you, I wrote down some notes here just to make sure I don't forget anything. So people generally have an easier time conventional deadlifting because they tend to develop those muscles throughout going to the gym. So those are the benefits of sumo deadlifting. The disadvantage of sumo deadlifting is that it's a more technical lift, so it requires a little bit more skill, and also it requires greater hip mobility. So with those two things, generally people do not have, and even myself being when I started sumo deadlifting, and even now at this point as an advanced lifter, I could really improve my hip mobility. So when you're first starting off, it's going to be really difficult for you because more likely than not, you're not going to have the foundational mobility required to perform the sumo deadlift with the proper technique. So people tend to have have better maxes with a conventional deadlift when you're first starting off lifting, or maybe even down the line, because people often lack the hip mobility required to sumo deadlift, like I said. And so they're going to really tend to focus on conventional deadlift because it's a little bit easier, right? And so you also tend to focus, even myself, you tend to focus on your quads, your back, and shoot, what else? What am I forgetting? And your glutes. So with that being said, typically you're going to have a stronger conventional deadlift when you're starting off. However, if you really focus on the form, and I also like to say that when you start sumo deadlifting, you have to remember that you're starting to develop your muscles in areas that you probably haven't developed. And the greatest example that I could give would be the inner groin, right? So like I said, you're going to develop the muscles of the inner groin, which I'm not going to go into too much detail because the names are very specific and very complicated. And I actually pulled it up just to give you an example of the main one that you'd be using would be the pectineus, which is pretty much directly opposing your iliotibial band, which is on the outer side of the thigh. Which I don't want to go too much into detail about that, but the bottom line is that you're going to have better leverage with the sumo deadlift. So that's going to be one of the number one reasons, really the main reason that I can give you as to why that'll be more beneficial for you as a lifter. And one thing that I would like to emphasize on is the technique. the sumo deadlift is not just splitting your legs open and pulling up the weight. There's a lot of technique that goes into that, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail. I'm actually going to go ahead and coach my own videos that I did of a deadlift session earlier this week, so that I could go over some of the foundations, some of the things that might help you guys as lifters, especially if you guys are just starting off. However, I would like to try and make this more of an advanced tutorial. And to give you my percentages, I have a 3.5 times body weight deadlift, which is pretty good, I would say. My max is 465, and I weigh 131 pounds, so I would be competing in the 59 kilogram category. And for those of you who would like to say that, well, I don't have the genetics, they're going to say that I'm small and athletic. Typically, people use the reason being that I'm smaller and more athletic, and the people that would use that excuse would be like the super heavyweight guys. The guys are like 6 foot tall, 250 plus pounds. They're going to say, well, there's no way in hell that you're going to get me into a split like that. And going back just to the basics of it, if you go back to ground zero and start building up and developing the muscles required to perform the sumo deadlift, it is without question, it doesn't matter what body type you are going to have greater strength potential. I mean, it's without question. And I would say that most people, even the super heavyweight guys, I mean, if you're weighing 250 pounds, to give you an example, 3.5 times 250 pounds, 875. So, I mean, if I was a 250 pound guy that was 6 foot tall, I'd be fucking deadlifting like 875. So, I mean, like, I don't want to use that as an excuse. Someone that I really, really, really like to watch is Chris Duffin. He goes under the Mad Scientist on Instagram, and that guy is a genius. He's the lightest man to ever pull over 1,000 pounds. So if you're questioning whether or not I have the technical know-how to coach you guys, go over to his channel, give him a look, and I guarantee you that it'll support some of the things that I'm saying. And I want to say that everything here is justified. I really do a lot of other research aside from my degree. So, and I'm the type of person that really likes to perform. I'm not just here coaching. I'm actually performing the movements, and I have over 7 years experience. That's another time, though, for another time. So, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and start the clip of me working out, me doing some sumo conventional deadlift, some sumo deadlifts, and I'm going to go ahead and coach myself and see if I can give you guys technique that way, because this is going to be, like, I feel the best way for me to really, for you guys to really see what I'm talking about. And so, best of luck to you. If you guys comment, please comment. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to help you guys out. Like I said, I have free power programming for you guys available, so just leave a comment below, and I will be more than happy to get back to you guys. And subscribe. Also subscribe. I know there's no subscribers on there, but a lot of good things are going to happen. I'm just starting to upload content, which I'm sure you guys can kind of see, and I'm going to take a little bit of a different twist on this, and I'm going to give you guys a lot of good free information, so please subscribe. And it should be pretty entertaining, too. I'm trying to make it funny a little bit. So subscribe, comment, let me know what you guys think. So during the initial sets, I can definitely afford to go a little bit wider. And also, the head and chest definitely needs to be a little bit more vertical, specifically more like the chest, not so much the fact that I'm looking up. And that will help to improve my hips getting a little bit closer up on that bar, which will put a little bit more tension on the inner muscles of the thigh, which will give the best leverage. Also, it'll shorten the range of motion, which will also improve your leverage again. So one thing I just want to emphasize on too, during the initial sets, it definitely looked like it can go a little bit wider, which will help me to get my chest upright a little bit more vertical in position. Also, you guys really want to make sure that you guys are right over the middle of your foot and really making sure to distribute your weight evenly throughout the whole foot. One thing that I used to do for a while was put my weight on the edges, the outside edges of my feet, which is not proper technique. One thing also you'll notice is that I have a lot of tension in the shoulder girdle and arms, so I could really afford to show my biceps a little bit more. The best way that I can describe that is actually rotating the shoulder blades back, not just the shoulder blades, the scapula. That's also going to force an upright position with the head and chest. One thing that I want you guys to be careful when you guys are performing this movement is not to overextend the back. You're not fully arching the back. The back should be in a neutral position. It should almost just be like you're standing straight up. You notice I've messed up there a little bit on one of those sets. It should almost be like you're standing straight up and your hips are opening up to allow that bar to move through. So really you want the bar path to be perfectly vertical. You don't want it to move forward or back. So you're not clearing the knees. The knees are opening up to allow the bar to go straight through. And that's a big pointer that I'd really like to make. Open your hips to allow the bar to go through. You are not moving the bar forward and back behind your knees. So the more vertical you can make it, eliminating as much movement as possible will give you the best mechanical advantage and the most leverage. So that's the key point with the sumo deadlift. I don't always want to say the wider you go, the better. If you notice, I'm not all the way out to the edges of the feet, to the edges of the plate. But I'm pretty close. And the wider you can go, typically, the better leverage you'll have. So the shorter guys, such as myself, might have a mechanical advantage. But really, like I said before, that really shouldn't matter as long as you have the proper hip mobility. If you guys don't have the hip mobility, sumo deadlifting is going to be very difficult. And I'd like to end it there.